It's not fear. It's not anger. It's where the heck are my people? And when we do IU language, we often need to look at the contracts we have not to express in order not to be left alone. Because if we have those contracts, they'll stop us from doing IU language altogether.
Cue music. Places, everybody places. We're starting in 3, 2.
Welcome to the Autoimmune Hour, where we look at the rise of autoimmune disorders. I've brought together top experts that range from doctors, specialists, nutritionists, researchers, and even those recovering from autoimmune to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information about autoimmunity and how to live your life uninterrupted.
Thank you for joining us here on the Autoimmune Hour with Sharon Sayler. Always seek sound legal, medical, and or professional advice regarding any problems, conditions, and any of the recommendations you see, hear, or read here on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio. Join the Autoimmune Hour's Courage Club. Sign up now at understandingautoimmune.com. Now, back to your host, Sharon Sayler.
Welcome, everyone, to the Autoimmune Hour. I'm Sharon Sayler from SharonSayler.com, and as always, it's my honor and pleasure to be with you here on another brand new episode. And guys, fasten your seatbelt. It's my 400th episode of the Autoimmune Hour. Can you believe that? I can't. But when I looked at the chart, there it was. And who else to invite but one of our all-time favorite guests and one of my all-time favorite people, Sarah Peyton. So we're going to talk about all sorts of great things. With Sarah, I never run out of questions, and I can't tell you how much she has changed my outlook, my world, and my recovery. She, what's that about? But we'll talk about that. Wow. Anyway, you can hear her voice in the background there. Welcome, Sarah.
Oh, Sharon, what a pleasure and honor to be here.
And let me if you don't know Sarah, you're missing out, guys. But let me tell you about Sarah Peyton. She is a W.W. Norton's author, and her first book is called Your Resonant Self, not Resident, Resonant Self. Your Resonant Self workbook is her next book. And then she just finished Affirmation for Turbulent Times and a Little Secret. She's got a new book coming out next year, too. So we'll talk about that in a bit, too. But I'm so excited because she teaches and speaks internationally on the ways that relationships and language transform our brain and prevent and heal trauma. And I say transform our wellness and our well-being, too, because I've had so many transformations in my wellness and well-being just using her techniques and her comments about healing from trauma. So, like I said, fasten your seatbelts, guys. I don't know where we're going, but when Sarah and I get together, we always have wonderful, fun stuff. And Sarah, thank you. Thank you again. I wanted to ask you, I know you had intrigued me with something called IU language. And you know me, I'm a word nerd, a language nut. I'm just going to dive in with both feet because that's who I am. I love understanding how we talk.
Oh, I love it too. And so one of the things that I've done over the years is to collect all the different kinds of language that I can find research for that light up different parts of the brain that we don't usually use in our everyday conversations. And one of these types of language is when we put I and you together, because they come from entirely different parts of the brain. The sense of an I, the sense of an I is held in a different part of the brain than the sense of a you.
Wow.
And then we is different again. It's not I and you. We don't get to do I and you by just saying we, because we becomes one thing, and then we're making all kinds of assumptions. So in IU language, you use the word I and the word you in one sentence. You just do one sentence at a time. And you don't repeat what the other person has said, and you use the words I and you, or me and your. It can be any grammatical construction of I, me, mine, you, yours, your. And we create sentences that hold both people in the same sentence.
Oh, I'm totally fascinated. My brain's going 100 miles an hour. Can you give us an example?
Well, the most common example is I love you. And then another common example is I hate you.
Okay. Let's end back on I love you.
But
Okay.
if
Wow.
we put our mind to it, it can come in so many different ways. We often say thank you, but what if we were to make it an I use sentence? What if we were to make our thank yous I use sentences? So I try this out with my husband, and instead of just saying, honey, thank you for cooking, I say, honey, when you made that meal for me, it tasted so good.
Did he look like if you'd been drinking a little too much grape juice?
Or if somebody holds the door for you, you get to, instead of just saying thank you, you get to say, ah, you held the door for me. It made my day. You're starting to acknowledge the existence of the other person and you, and the impact that another person has on you. So it can be like expressions of gratitude, and it can also be take you to very interesting places when it's a difficult subject and you're trying to give someone feedback about something that they've done that's impacted you.
I just want to go back to holding the door because I find holding the door an interesting custom. I appreciate it when the door is held open. Whomever's doing it, it doesn't matter to me. I always say thank you, but it's just sort of in passing, and it's fast because I'm headed out, they're headed in. I'm just fascinated. I'm going to try that. I wonder what would happen if you really express deep gratitude in a longer sentence.
In little things. It can be all kinds of little things, Oh, your smile lifted me up. It's like it can be very short. It doesn't have to take that much longer than a regular thank you, but it does take more intention and more thoughtfulness because it's different. But it really brings an element of fun and a live appreciation into our expressions of gratitude.
I love that. Okay, I bumped into it there and went down a rabbit hole. But keep going on about what we were talking about, interchanges with people and how maybe how it can shift the dynamic or the direction of the conversation.
It increases intimacy. It increases connection. So you don't necessarily, you don't want to use it with somebody that you don't want to increase connection and intimacy with. But I mean, if you want if you want to be just kind of skating through the world and not leaving any trace behind, then you don't want to use it. But but if you want to, it's so fun. It's so fun. The other person starts to come alive in a really different way for us.
Well, I'm fascinated by this because my expertise, body language, I'm thinking a lot of times I talk about the idea that eye contact is about relationship.
Oh.
And then a degree of eye contact intensifies the relationship or diminishes, depending. And I'm thinking, wow, if you played with the idea of how do I want my eye contact to be while I'm using an I you gratitude statement, wow.
Yeah, soft
That
eyes.
could be powerful.
Yeah, that's really powerful.
Now, people who are here to listen to the autoimmune hour are probably listening to us going, okay, that's great. But I could see how this could really transform someone's view of their diagnosis as well.
Yes, absolutely. And it can be IU language between ourselves and our bodies. Hey, sweet body, I wonder how you are doing today. It matters to me how you are. It's a different way of talking to our bodies, even. I always love, we've talked before about resonance for the cells and how to get into how cells are community beings and how much they love to have attention.
Well, if I might speak out of turn here, but it was so funny. You were saying it to Sarah's body, me, you, body. And I got tingles. It was like my body said, yes.
Yes. Yeah. Well, this kind of takes us back to one of the things that you and I have talked about many times, which is that our internal radar about relationship is running like more than 100 times a second. There's a pulse. There's an electronic pulse that's coming out of the amygdala that's surveying the world to see if we're safe and if we matter. Am I safe? Do I matter? And that message of, am I safe? Do I matter? Is directly hooked to the immune system. The immune system tells what kind of cells to make based on the answers to those questions. So safe is an interesting question. Am I safe? We can be safe. We can feel safe if we're invisible and hidden in a corner and nobody sees us. We can be safe. But we're not fully in a place where our immune system is going to fight viruses and manage cancer until we also can answer yes to the question of, do I matter? Do I have a sense that I get to come out of my corner and out of my invisibility? And do I get to be in the rest of the world with everybody else doing my thing? Does my voice matter? Do people want to hear my voice? Do I have a sense that I get to contribute, that my ideas are important, that my words are important? Is a very interesting question for the immune system.
Well, it's so funny you bring that up. I'm going to tattle on myself. So this was a while ago, but still fewer and fewer people were wearing masks. And I had to go to the bank. And I sat in my car going, do you wear a mask in the bank or do you not wear a mask in the bank? Do you wear a mask in the bank? And that was my safety question for all sorts of levels.
Yeah.
It looked pretty crowded stuff. So yes, I'm wearing a mask into the bank, which I did. And I walked past, well, I don't know what they are. They're sort of a greeter. They don't really look like a security guard, but I'll call them a greeter. And he came up to me in line and he was very polite. It was not confrontational at all. He just was, ma'am, you don't have to wear the mask in the bank anymore. And my inner 5-year-old just freaked out and time stood still. And the voice that came out was an inner 5-year-old that said, yes, I have to.
Oh.
But it was so loud
Oh.
that the adult in me could see all eyes in the bank going right at me.
Oh, of course. Oh,
I was so stunned by my reaction. I did not expect that to come out of me. I immediately gave gratitude to my inner 5-year-old that freaked.
Yeah.
But I think this IU language is fabulous. It could have been so helpful to calm me down after that moment where I startled myself, let alone everyone else in the bank.
Yeah, no kidding. And just to even to be able to say, oh, I noticed my voice was really loud. Did I startle you?
I felt a little sorry for the guy. He threw up his hands like, no, ma'am, you could still wear it. It's fine. Oh my gosh. But I love that talking to ourselves. Like, did we startle ourselves? Because the adult in me was startled where, whoa, the 5-year-old really needed to be heard in that moment.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. It's quite a thing, isn't it? To be wearing a mask in a world that's largely unmasked now. It's quite an interesting question. I loved it that you said question of safety on so many levels, because the safety of having a little bit of a protection for our immune system is, of course, amazing with masks. But there's also a question of belonging, and it can feel unsafe if everybody else isn't wearing a mask. It can feel unsafe to wear them. It's an expression. Mm-hmm. It's an expression of our truth. It's like, masks help me. Masks help my immune system. They help me feel safe. But do they disconnect me from my fellow, from the other people around me, or do they make me a target? Is one of the things that occurred to me when you had mentioned those different levels of safety that can be a part of that question. So I love it that we're naming this for people.
Yeah, it was fascinating. But I can see in that next moment after that, speaking to myself with IU language, because when I heard your voice tell yourself IU language, it was a unique shiver kind of calmness that overcame very quickly. Wow, what a blessing to be able to understand not only helping others, but how you can calm yourself
Yeah.
so quickly.
Yeah. And what's so interesting about IU language is it will very quickly reveal to us what kinds of contracts, what kind of unconscious contracts we have, not to believe that we matter, or not even to really be completely invested in existing. I often meet people who have contracts not to fully incarnate. I will not fully be here. I will not fully participate in this world. I do not vote yes for this life.
Whoa.
Yeah. And those contracts prevent our full inhabitation of our bodies, which of course our immune systems long for and need our full participation in this funny experience of being human.
Now, just for those, I encourage you to go back to the shows and listen to especially the one on unconscious contracts. But just for those who aren't familiar with an unconscious contract, can you just give us a real quick?
Yeah. In moments when we experience trauma, we often make promises to ourselves not to do or whatever it is again. So, for example, we have a parent who gets really angry and is dangerous. We make a contract with ourselves never to be angry again, never to be angry, in order to keep the world safe from anger, not realizing that anger is our life energy, and that when we are angry about something, it's because we love something. And what needs to happen is there needs to be a unification between the anger and the love, and then it's safe. But it's not, it doesn't make it safe the same way if we just turn our life energy off. That results in depression. Because in order to manage anger, if you don't link it with love, you have to turn everything down. You have to turn the volume down on your seeking circuit, on your emergence/sexuality circuit, on your play circuit, on your fear circuit. You have to turn everybody down inside of you in order to manage rage, unless rage is linked with love. If it's linked with love, it's totally safe, totally life-serving. But when we turn our anger down, it has quite an effect on both our life energy and our immune system. So we can have contracts that say, no way, what the heck is Sarah talking about? It's not okay to be angry. It's never okay to be angry. I swear to myself that I will never be angry because it's not okay, in order to make the world safe, no matter the cost to myself. We're starting to talk about the cost to ourselves. So when there are difficult situations, we'll make all kinds of contracts. I was just recently teaching a class, and the woman's contract was, I will become invisible and I will not speak my truth in order to protect myself from pain, no matter the cost to myself. So wow. there's that invisibility, there's that safety from being hidden. But as we've talked about, if we're completely hidden, we don't get to experience mattering. We don't get to experience belonging. I have a little old dog down here who's coughing. We don't get to experience belonging, and we don't get to have the full engagement in our bodies and our immune systems, again, that fights viruses, that fights cancer, that lets us have balanced, easy experiences with existing and being in a human body.
I am so thrilled I asked that question, guys. I've known Sarah for years, and every time I learn more and more from her. I had never heard you discuss, maybe I've heard it and just now it's sinking in, that's always a possibility, about the idea of anger and love.
Yeah.
That takes a little, some deeper thought process here to really let go of the old definitions of those two words.
Yeah. Our anger comes up. The more that our needs are not met, the more anger we have. So If we have a need for truth that's not being met, if we have a need for authenticity that's not being met, if we have a need for trust that's not being met, that as these things are not being met, that need, the anger mounts. And it's not because we're bad people that the anger mounts. It's because we love authenticity. We love trust. We love truth. And as we make that linkage, then that anger becomes incredibly life-serving.
Wow.
And it can come out in IU language. And this is where it comes in, the language that increases intimacy in a difficult situation. So let's say we've got a partner, and the partner is using, let's say the partner is gambling with money that's joint money. What happens if we say, I want to know whether or not you're understanding the impact on me of this habit? It can be any addiction. It can be drinking. It can be gambling. It can be shopping. It can be staying on the internet all the time. It can be workaholism. All of our addictions. Gabor Mate has a wonderful definition of addiction. It's very simple. He says, addiction is continued use despite harm. So we're saying to our partner, our best friend, whoever it is who's impacting us, a parent, a child, I want to know if you get that this impacts me.
That is an important question, I think. Yeah. I hear in different forms, but you've boiled it down to the exact question.
Yeah.
I hear so many people asking.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such an interesting question. And then people can have all kinds of responses. People can, like, defensiveness, well, lots of things that you do impact me, they'll say. And so what IU language also invites us to do is to hold on to the intention for connection, and to speak our deepest truth. So in the moment, the person's going, well, you say you do lots of things that impact me. And we go, okay, I could respond to that, but that wouldn't be in the service of connection. And that wouldn't be my deepest truth. What's my deepest truth now? My deepest truth now is, if you would let yourself know how much this matters to me, I wonder if it would change some of your decisions. And then they get to, we haven't responded to that anger level of defensiveness. We're staying with our own experience. And then they might say something. People can get really angry and they can attack, and they can say, you've never cared about me. You don't care about me at all. This will often come out in flights.
Right. I was thinking, as I listened to your first question there was like, wow, the tremendous amount of vulnerability that you have to ask that question.
Yeah. Yeah. And to stay with ourselves.
Yes, exactly.
And not get sucked into the back and forth. Yeah. And then we can say, that is not my truth. Right? So the person has just said, you don't care about me. You can say, that is not my truth. That does not resonate for me in any way about how I feel about you. There we are. Just like staying with it. And we're just saying one sentence. We're not becoming a prosecuting attorney or a defense attorney. We're staying with one sentence at a time. We're not repeating ourselves or the other person. We're staying that intention to connect and to tell our own deepest truth. Sometimes people want to tell a deep truth about the other person. Like, you could change this behavior if you wanted to. I know you could. Technically, that's IU language, but it's about the other person. It's not about us. We're staying with what is true, what is about us, what's in service of connection.
Thinking to myself about, first, how vulnerable and loving to yourself you have to be in that moment to keep that boundary between staying in your truth and stepping on the other side and some sort of attack language, or pointing out other things, the too much of the you.
Yeah.
The opposite there. And the amount of, I'm going to say, practice that has to come into this to be able to, I mean, if for years and years you've tried or done it the opposite way totally, or whatever it is, I could see that this is an entire new skill set and a new boundary set. And even I am sort of getting triggered here going, wow, the amount of the bravery keeps coming into this word for me. I don't know why. I'm like, wow, the amount of bravery to stand in that place of your truth and stay there with what I'll say true listening, but not engagement. Is engagement's probably the wrong word. I don't know what word I'm searching for, but not engagement in the exchange of negativities or anything, just staying in your truth.
Yeah, we stay out of the clouds of pain that come out of the other person.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not our business. Yeah. Yeah, whatever they say is not our business, except that we get to tell our deepest truth.
I'm curious is there any acknowledgement? Let's say they say some things and I don't know whether they're true or not. Who knows? I don't know even know if that matters. But is there an acknowledgement of that you've heard them?
No, you don't even need to do that. It makes for a very interesting conversation if you stay with you.
Okay.
There's probably a contract. This work reveals all kinds of contracts. There's probably some sort of contract that you have. If you feel like, oh my God, I'm not acknowledging that I heard my partner, your partner has just yelled something insulting.
Right. But I'm thinking back, I can't remember what it was called, but years ago, there was some sort of thing where you had to say, yes, or I hear you, or something along those lines.
No, if they're not going to their deepest truth, then they're caught in a spin cycle. What's so interesting about IU language is that it takes away the power differential. It stops you from being better than anybody else.
Oh.
You're just staying with your own self. You're not thinking, oh, I need to correct my partner. They've got it wrong. They get to say whatever they want. They're not wrong. They're just spinning in their own pain. And we get to go deeper. We get to go deeper than the spinning. We get to keep going deeper. Like, what is it? If we're really have an intention to connect, what does the love say? What is the love speaking about between two people? And it can be a partnership, or it can be with like if you're doing it with an employee, like if it's an employer-employee relationship and you're like trying to say, dude, your punctuality, it's really impacting the whole team. Your lack of punctuality is impacting the whole team. Here comes the parade of dogs. Your lack of punctuality is really impacting the whole team and taking a toll on my patience and my effectiveness. So there is a basic respect in that. Like, here's what you've done. Here's the impact. Here's what's happening to me. Boom. I'm handing you my hand with something on it. What are you going to do next? And you're not trying to solve that other person's problem. You're not trying to strategize about their effectiveness. None of that. You're working to like stay with yourself and stay with what is the impact.
I love it. And my next question is so in an employee, I mean, I can put myself in that situation. I've been there where I get all sorts of excuses. I'll just say that are all plausible. I mean, they've had childcare difficulties. They have a sick spouse, or their car, whatever. I could think of a million things where all of a sudden, then I feel, and this is probably an old contract, but that part of me, I don't know whether it's the rescuer or the relationship saver or the I've been there too.
Right. We don't want you to be abandoning what your deepest truth is. So let's say I've just said this to you. You're the employee. You bring what's happened, like whatever. Choose one.
Yeah, childcare issues, and my car broke down.
Mm-hmm. So then I, as the employer, have to manage my own nervous system, because there's a response there's some anger, there's some tenderness, there's some knowledge of like everyday life. But those things all take me towards you or towards the expression of me, but aren't in the we space, aren't in the I, you space. So if I come back to myself and I say, I'm still wondering whether or not you really get your importance to this team.
Wow, I would be dumbfounded.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? It's quite a different calling for the other person to know that they matter.
Yes, absolutely. It took me aback when you said that. I was like, wow. It's amazing to me how much oftentimes, even if we think we matter, we don't know the depths of that, how the depths that we matter, or in the multiple ways that we matter.
Right. And
Wow.
of course, once the other person starts to understand that they matter, they take their punctuality more seriously, and it helps their immune system.
Probably helps my own immune system as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Sarah and I, when we get together, I have blown past the time that I have to take a quick commercial break. You guys, if you've listened to me and Sarah before, you know that happens all the time. So, but anyway, to make the powers that be happy, we'll take this quick commercial break and we'll be right back.
Life Interrupted Radio will return after these messages from our sponsors. It's great sponsors like these that keep this show coming to you every week. Be sure and stop by lifeinterruptedradio.com to learn more.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
If you're worried your friend may be struggling, remember, you don't have to be there to be there.
You could say, how are you, or get a fake tattoo. You could ask with an app if it works for you. You could chat on the game, kick off your flip-flops. You could ask on your couch while you binge watch. Whatever gets you talking.
Reach out to a friend about their mental health. Learn how you can help at seizetheawkward.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and the JED Foundation.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Listen and imagine. It takes 5 seconds to send a text, and for those 5 seconds, you're driving blind. Life is worth more than a text. Stay alive. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Sharon, and of course you know me from here on the Autoimmune Hour. Maybe you don't know I'm also an author. My latest book is for kids. It's Pinky Chenille and the Rainbow Hunters, a winner of a 5-star reader's favorite review. It's perfect for your early reader and a great bedtime story for your young adventurers. Check it out over at pinkychenille.com. That's PinkyChenille.com. See you there. Welcome back, everyone, to the Autoimmune Hour. I'm Sharon Sayler from SharonSayler.com. And of course, you can find all of the episodes. We're celebrating our 400th episode tonight, but all the other $3.99 plus this one over at understandingautoimmune.com, as well as all the other podcast and videocast outlets that are out there. And tonight I've invited a dear, dear friend, longtime friend of mine, and someone who never ceases to keep me amazed. Is Sarah Peyton. She's the author of Your Resonant Self, Your Resonant Self Workbook, and Affirmations for Turbulent Times. And she's got a new book coming out in 2023, which I'm really excited about. Now, of course, we'll have her on to discuss that when that's out, but she's been busy. And she brought to us tonight the idea of I-you language. Now, this can go so many levels, and we've talked about unconscious contracts. I'd like to take it to a level that you brought to us about 2 or so years ago, was alarmed aloneness. And I'm thinking, I as the truth teller, I as the boundary keeper, speaking from the I-you language, I might bump into my river of alarmed aloneness, and
Yes.
as might the other person. But speaking from I, what happens? Have you noticed that all of a sudden we're speaking our truth? And does that idea of, if I do this, am I going to be...
Yes, will I lose my friend? Will I lose my position? Will I lose my job? Will I lose my belonging? It's very similar in some ways to this question of the alarmed aloneness that can come when we're thinking about wearing a mask or not wearing a mask. Because there can be, as we put a mask on and nobody else has a mask on, there can be a sense of separation. And that sense of separation impacts our immune system. Alarmed aloneness always impacts the immune system. We often talk about, for those of you who haven't heard about alarmed aloneness before, we often talk about the nervous system having the states of fight, flight, freeze, which are activation and immobilization. What we tend to be implying when we say fight, flight, is we're implying that humans only get upset when they're angry, fight, or when they're afraid, flight. We tend not to realize that there is a protest state of activation, of losing connection and losing people that we love. So now when I'm talking about the nervous system, I'll actually say fight, flight, alarmed aloneness, and freeze or immobilization, to begin to allow us to name this very human state of getting upset. It's not fear. It's not anger. It's, where the heck are my people? Exactly. So, and when we do I-you language, we often need to look at the contracts we have not to express in order not to be left alone. Because if we have those contracts, they'll stop us from doing I-you language altogether. If we've had lived experience of expression being dangerous and or separating, then we'll have contracts that say, no, don't go there. Don't talk like that. Don't express your truth. Don't be vulnerable. You'll be shamed and humiliated. These are lived experiences that our bodies truly have gone through.
Well, I think a lot in the past few years, especially here in the States, but as I read about other places as well, just a global grief and trauma, everything around the pandemic, the politics, it just seems to be going on and on, that I've seen not only friendships fractured, but families fractured over speaking things that are of outside us, so to speak, the politics or the bigger picture, the pandemic picture, that a lot of people are like, well, to keep my friends, I wouldn't have any friends if I told them what I was really thinking.
Yeah. It's so true. There have been so many divides now. I was just working with the idea of disillusionment as trauma, of the experience of running into the heartbreak of power makers and decision makers holding different values than we hold, which has happened for so many people in so many different ways. It's happened for people on the political spectrum who are like, what is the Supreme Court doing? They're making decisions that are completely against my values. There's betrayal, there's heartbreak, there's disillusionment. These are moments of trauma. And what research shows us is that when we allow the disillusionment and cynicism to take over, it robs us of our political power and engagement for participation. So it's very important to acknowledge moments of disillusionment and the call for cynicism. Sometimes I say, cynicism has been my religion. but it's not a good religion. So I've been trying to move away from that religion. But people who have not, wanted to be part of the vaccination effort, those people have a sense of betrayal and disillusionment from the difference in opinion and the different ideas. People who have different political ideas, the people who saw Biden being elected when they really wanted Trump to be elected, that was a moment of heartbreak and disillusionment. So how do we create the nest of catching where we get to say to our disillusioned selves, oh, honey, of course she experienced disillusionment there. Do you need some acknowledgement that your values are so different from the person who's making the decisions right now? As we begin to bring that self-compassion and that warmth to ourselves, no matter where we are on the political spectrum or the medical spectrum or the abortion spectrum, or all of those questions that are so big and so divisive now. But if we're like, oh, honey, and making a white feathered nest of self-compassion.
I love how you're holding your hands as the little white feathered nest talking to the baby bird. Maybe it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I can see how even the body language part of that plays into the affirmation and the acknowledgement of it.
Yeah. And the little IU language, I understand that your heart is broken. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow, that's going to take a while for me to digest all of that and to play with it. I think that's the wonderful thing about your work, Sarah, is I love listening to it. I love sharing with you, asking questions. And then what really is cool is out there in the real world, all of a sudden I will practice it and then go, oh, well, okay, now it's coming together. Now it's making sense,
I love doing IU challenges for myself. Like with my husband, for example, I'm like, how many sentences in a row can I do IU language? Because you don't get to just say, honey, have you changed the cat litter? Which, that's like the regular dialogue. What do you want to watch on TV tonight? What do you want to have for dinner? That's the regular level of dialogue. So how do I invite myself to, I worked for 6 months once to get to 3. I was working at it. I would never be able to sustain the attention. I could do a really good gratitude, and then I'd slip into, trying to take care of business. And then one night I was lying in bed with my sweetheart, and I got 3 IU exchanges in a row out. And I was like, wow, I've been working for 6 months to do it because I like to get things done. I love efficiency. I love productivity.
I just have a question though. So I don't need to know what they were, but I'm curious. When I was learning other skills, I remember one particular one where my son got in trouble, and I remember I was trying the skill and with him, and I remember he knew that I had been learning this technique, and he's like, "Oh, Mom, just stop it, ground me."
What a sweetheart.
I'm curious, did your husband notice the change? Did he notice the 3?
He doesn't talk about this sort of thing with me, but his whole body relaxes. I can have a hand on his back, and I can do an IU gratitude instead of just a regular thank you. And I just feel his body melt.
Well, that's what's always so fascinating to me with your work and others that we've had on the show is you don't always need the verbal response to be completely aware that the energy in the room has just shifted to the positive.
So true.
Or in my case with the mask, that wasn't so positive, but it was certainly a moment where I
Yeah.
I felt it was positive, even though at that moment it wasn't.
It was an
But
expression of your truth.
it was an expression of the truth. And yet also what it was is an expression of, in that moment, I realized how much more love and tender loving care that 5-year-old needed than I had been giving it.
Oh,
Because if it's going to have that outburst
yeah.
in that format, I was like, wow, that little 5-year-old needs some extra attention here.
Yeah. And maybe some acknowledgement of the power differential that the person who's the greeter has with us who are the clients and customers.
Even though non-uniform, the whole thing, I'm not blaming the greeter at all. They were doing their job.
Yeah.
When you use the word power, my first thought was, I want to make clear it wasn't like a security guard with a gun. It was just a really nice looking person standing there,
But they have authority, and we
Yes.
can have contracts to be good girls or good boys, where we always want to do what people tell us to do.
Yeah, well, I think it was heightened too in a bank. Since when can you wear a mask in a bank?
Right.
But
True, isn't it?
I think there was a little extra symbolism for me trying to make up my mind about that topic. Oh my gosh. Sarah, we're down to just about 7 minutes. I want to open it up for you to share. I'm always in awe what you share with me and our audience here. What would you like that we haven't had a chance to discover?
Oh, I think this idea of vulnerability is just so beautiful and so important. I think if we can begin to let go of the idea that vulnerability is dangerous, then the world starts to change dramatically. And what's so interesting about the word vulnerability in English is that it is a specific word. We don't make ourselves vulnerable when we're expressing anger. And we don't make ourselves vulnerable when we're telling people what to do. And we don't make ourselves vulnerable when we're just kind of happy. We make ourselves vulnerable when we share a longing, or we share fear, or we share a sadness. And so in a way, we could even be asking ourselves, what am I afraid of? How am I lonely? And what am I longing for? And those questions, is it safe to talk about what we're afraid of? Is it safe to share how we're lonely? Is it safe to share what we're longing for? If it's not safe, we might have contracts against it. If we have a partner who's contemptuous, we don't necessarily have contracts. Then it truly isn't safe to share those things. But if we have a partner who's not contemptuous and we still believe that it's dangerous to share those things, then we may very well have contracts from childhood when people really were contemptuous and dismissive and judgmental, or tried to fix us, because that's the thing that people will do when we share our longings, our fears, and our lonelinesses, is people will try to fix us.
Yes.
Which we can have, we can be like, I am never going to share those things because I hate to be fixed.
I had someone one time tell me that I needed to be educated. And ever since I heard the word educated, it just makes me bristle.
Oh, no kidding. No.
Because I didn't need to be fixed. Yeah. And I certainly didn't need to be educated.
Yeah, so true. Oh my goodness.
Well, so we just have a couple minutes left, but share with us your can you share with us your latest book?
Oh, the latest book.
I know you're still writing it, but what are you up to, girl?
I'm co-writing it with Roxy Manning, and she's an anti-racist work activist and teacher, and she's African American, and she lives down in the Bay Area. And the book is going to be called The Anti-Racist Heart. And so with this book, The Anti-Racist Heart, there will be parts that she'll write that are about her teachings about anti-racism. And there'll be parts that I write that are about the neuroscience of anti-racism and the kinds of unconscious contracts we can have that will stop us from being able to have an expansive vision and to move towards what Martin Luther King Jr. so beautifully named the longing for beloved community. the longing for a community where everybody matters and everybody gets to belong. And we get to not like what people do and still love the people.
Oh, what a beautiful place to stop. Leave it there, everyone. That's Sarah Peyton. You can find more about her and her amazing work. She's always got workshops going on that you can attend all the time. You can find her at sarahpeyton.com, as well as on Facebook. You can find her at Sarah Peyton -sarahpeyton.com. You can find her there too, plus many other places there. So everyone, have a great week, whatever your adventures. Thank you, my friend Sarah, for celebrating our 400th anniversary with more mind-blowing things for me to integrate and a deeper understanding of myself and others and how we function in the world. So appreciate you and all the wisdom you bring to our show.
Thank you so much for having me as a guest. I celebrate your 400th episode. I love being with you more than any other host anywhere, anytime.
Oh, thank you, sweetie. It means so much to me. And I do have great guests. I've fallen in love with all of my guests. I knew Sarah before we started the show, but I've fallen in love with all of my guests as well. So everyone, have a great week, whatever your adventures. Join me next week for number 401, and we'll start on the march towards 500. And so join us. Take care. Enjoy.
The information provided on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio, including the websites understandingautoimmune.com and lifeinterruptedradio.com, plus social media, is for educational purposes only. What you read, hear, and see on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio, and its websites, and other media outlets is based on experience only. The information should never be used for any legal, diagnostic, or treatment purposes.
Research shows we apologize up to 10 times a day, and most of the time, we say sorry as a response to someone else's mistake. What if we thanked people instead of all that unnecessary apologizing? So instead of saying, sorry, I'm rambling, you say, thank you for listening. Join us at projectforgive.com, a free, non-religious resource on global forgiveness.
Do you want to be a better leader, have better relationships, become more self-aware, be a better communicator? Hi, I'm Sharon Sayler, best-selling author, professional speaker, and executive coach. And my life passion is empowering professionals to be the best that they can be. After years of working with professionals, I've discovered the 7 things nobody is telling you that can cost you your clients, sales, and even your career. And I want to give it to you free. You've heard my show, you know my passion, and maybe we'll be working together sooner rather than later. So go grab this ebook now to find out the 7 things that's costing you big time over at SharonSayler.com/radio gift.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.